regular board meeting of Indian Prairie School District 204 on Monday, March 5th, 2018. Jackie, can you call the roll?
Ms. Peel?
Here.
Mr. Carubas?
Here.
Ms. Price?
Here.
Mr. Razak?
Here.
Ms. Deming?
Here.
Mr. Rising?
Here.
Ms. Donahue?
Here.
And Mark, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we have one board salute today, and Ms. Price, could you share that?
Absolutely. The board salutes Neuqua Valley High School on being recognized as a Project Lead the Way distinguished school for providing broad access to transformative learning opportunities for students through Project Lead the Way engineering. It is one of just 133 high schools across the U.S. to receive this honor. The Project Lead the Way Distinguished School recognition honors schools committed to increasing student access, engagement, and achievement in their Project Lead the Way programs. Congratulations to all involved.
Thank you. And it's time for our student representative report. It's from Waubonsee Valley High School, and we have Lauren Aucoin here. Welcome again, Lauren.
Go Warriors.
Good evening. Waubonsee has started off this week with the spirited Comfy Day as we launch into our Respect Week. Over the long weekend, Waubonsee hosted parent-teacher conferences. Waubonsee also has had many academic, athletic, and extracurricular achievements over the past weekend. Over the past weekend, Waubonsee's Model UN won multiple awards at the Lions High School Conference. Waubonsee also hosted our annual FCCLA Fashion Show this past Wednesday, February 28th, with the theme Breakfast at Tiffany's. The proceeds from the show went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Waubonsee Valley BPA traveled to state this past weekend. 12 Waubonsee Valley students recently qualified for the state in the IDEA competition held by Waubonsee Community College. This is the largest group of Waubonsee students to have qualified, and they will be competing at Illinois State on April 14th. Recently, Waubonsee's Lauren McKnight advanced to state for the basketball three-point competition. Waubonsee Hockey is currently participating in the state hockey tournament. This Monday, March 5th, Waubonsee Scholastic Bowl is at Mattia for regionals. On February 15th, Waubonsee held our IP Scholars Award ceremony, honoring over 250 seniors for academic excellence and their hard work. Boys swimming finished 9th in state at the IHSA state meeting in Evanston. In terms of upcoming events, Waubonsee Valley's PTA is hosting the annual silent auction with the theme of March Madness this Friday, March 9th. And this Friday, March 9th, Waubonsee will be administering the Illinois Youth Survey to gain students' feedback on the school environment. That's all.
All right, thank you. And now it's time for public comment for non-agenda items. If you are here to speak to an agenda item, that comment will be taken immediately prior to that item. 30 minutes is allowed for public comment, and each person is limited to 3 minutes. When addressing the board, we ask that you respect the confidentiality and safety of our students and school district personnel. We also ask that those addressing the board be cognizant that this is an open meeting and is available to all age groups, and as such, ask that you consider who the audience members are this evening to keep comments age appropriate. Public comment represents the voice and opinion of the speaker. There will be no feedback from the board members during the meeting, but follow-up will be provided by an administrator as appropriate. And the first person is Glenn Luckenbill. Welcome. Yes, thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've been in the school district for 18 years, and I have 2 students who have gone all the way through the 12 years of schooling, 13 years of schooling here, and one that's still in the process. I just want to start out by saying the school district is well recognized as one of the best schools in the area, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. With that said, I believe there are a lot of things that we can and should do to make sure that our schools remain the best and that we become internationally more competitive. And therefore, I've been studying the subject matter, and I've got some recommendations that we're hoping to bring forward in more detail in the future. The first of which is I attended a 203 exemplary business partnership breakfast a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing the amount of integration that the school district has with local businesses. And I don't see the same thing here in 204. So I would recommend that we create something that is a little bit more substantial than whatever exists today, so that we can get area businesses working together with teachers and students to provide supplemental educational opportunities. The second is to create expanded learning opportunities curriculum where some of our students can have independent learning time and study subject matter that is important to them or of interest to them, particularly emerging technologies. We don't have too many engineering, we don't have many teachers who have engineering degrees, and we have a very steep lack of engineering capability within our teaching realm. And I think we should figure out how do we supplement the curriculum with businesses in the area who can provide some supplemental education, and we can provide curriculum that are related to emerging technologies. And the third is we're working on creating a new technology hub here in Naperville, and we want to figure out how we can get the school tied into that so that students can have internship opportunities, be exposed to more emerging technologies, and really try to provide information about talent and technical skills that are going to be required for the jobs of the future, because the jobs of the future are going to be very different from the jobs of the past. So I look forward to talking to some of you in the near future about some of those ideas, and appreciate the time to talk today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next speaker is Martha Carney.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Martha Carney, and I'm a 28-year resident of the city of Naperville. I'm also the CEO and founder of Outsourced Innovation in Naperville, and what our company does is build sustainable entrepreneurship and innovation centers and programming throughout the Midwest. I wanted to attend this meeting today primarily to simply plant a seed with all of you and germinate on a concept that we're working on called N-Hub in Naperville. N-Hub is an innovation center off the I-88 corridor. It will utilize more than 200,000 square feet of empty space once occupied by Lucent and Bell Labs for the purpose of immersing District 204 students with startups. N-Hub will include co-working, workshops and events, innovation coaches, a makerspace, and lots of opportunities for student internships and even access to capital. We've been socializing and shaping this concept with primarily Nokia, with substantial interest for a public-private sector collaboration in this effort. N-Hub will be a state-of-the-art innovation and entrepreneurship hub that will connect and expose Naperville area students with opportunities to help them discover, explore, build, and launch emerging technologies. N-Hub will provide a post-educational path for students who engage with startups. The concept itself will really function to immerse students in the entrepreneurial mindset. Its focus will be primarily on robotics, artificial intelligence, and digital marketing, and drone. But we won't forget about those creative artists, and especially have a STEM focus, and primarily on women. The 2017 Northeastern University Gallup survey says that academia is unable to keep up with the rapid pace of technological change and problems in the industries, and colleges and universities certainly have their work cut out for them. 3 out of 4 Americans were found in that study to strongly agree or disagree that technology will fundamentally change the way people learn, work, and live over the next decade. Respondents were both optimistic and somewhat anxiety-ridden about artificial intelligence, but most would prefer to get training from an employer rather than a college or university. So our students need base knowledge, and they need to learn how to solve problems. So we're asking if you would please just keep your mind open more as we share more going forward about NHUB in Naperville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now moving to our consent agenda and superintendent report. I'm going to ask Dr. Sullivan to begin.
Okay, so our final Engage 204 community engagement session is set for Tuesday, March 20th at Still Middle School from 7 to 9 p.m. This meeting will focus on finances and the costs needed to fund many of the suggestions that we've heard from the community at previous meetings. So this will be a very important meeting, and we encourage, again, everyone to come and to participate. The board is very interested in hearing the priorities of the community, so again, visit the Engage 204 website for more information. I have I'm going to finish off with two feel-goods, if that's okay. Kind of feel like I need a feel-good today to share with all of you. So last week I had the opportunity to attend the ICE conference in Schaumburg. ICE is an educational technology conference, and I went really for only one session. And that was to see 12 of our middle school students, 2 students from each of our 7 middle schools, present on their experiences as being members of the middle school student tech squads. So these students did an amazing job with their presentation, discussing what they've learned, how they've had to adapt, as students and teachers have become more familiar with the technology and they weren't needed as much, and they had to figure out, what they were needed for. The students were really excited about this opportunity. They were interviewed live by EdTech magazine, and were really poised when they responded to the questions from their audience. They did an awesome job. However, they were most excited when they were told after the presentation by Stan and Al and the group that was there with them, that their presentation had been accepted by the international conference that's going to be in Chicago this summer in June, and so they're going to be presenting at the international conference as well. But you would have been really proud of the students. They did a great job. And then on Friday, we had our Valley Runway fittings. Valley Runway, if you remember, is the program that provides prom dresses, shoes, jewelry, etc., to our students from low-income families who otherwise would not have the resources to buy what is the necessary prom attire these days. Dresses and accessories were donated by our community, and we want to give a big shout out to the Indian Prairie Educational Foundation again for their support for this project. We also want to thank the Rotary Club of Naperville for their generosity for this project. They handed us a check, and also I know Lisa was still collecting prom dresses on Thursday, the day before, from some of the community members. So it was a great success. So that's it.
Great, thanks. And now the consent agenda. I need a motion that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through I.
Make a motion the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through I as presented.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Rising?
Aye.
Ms. Peel?
Aye.
Ms. Donahue?
Aye.
Mr. Carubas?
Yes.
Ms. Deming?
Aye.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Rasak?
Aye. Motion passes. And now we move to our discussion items, beginning with the Student Transportation Tracking App.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to present something pretty exciting that we've been researching over the past several months after startup of this school year to bring our transportation operation into the 21st century by utilizing some technology advances that currently exist within our software suite option we use for routing our students. I will jump right into it, and questions along the way I'm fine with, but I would prefer if we wait to the end just so I can get through it, and then if there's any questions, we can have a discussion afterwards. What we wanted to do is make sure that we are not creating more data points within our current systems that we use. The more data points and more software systems that you try to integrate together, the inaccuracy and unreliability of data potential is there to exist. So what we wanted to do is, how do we integrate what we're looking to do with a large-scale project and a large-scale district with routing a lot of students, provide information that is accurate and reliable, without creating multiple data points. What we want to do is utilize our current system, which is VersaTrans, and that's what routes our students. And if any of you have a student that gets routed, this is the information that you see in home access. It comes directly from our router. We want to eliminate any type of route sheets that are in hand. Sometimes at the beginning of the school year, you'll see drivers drive around with a piece of paper in their hand, trying to figure out where they're going, or during the school year, you'll see a sub-driver doing the exact same thing. We want to try to reduce that by providing this technology with our vehicles. We want to provide schools tools, so if they receive a phone call, hey, where's my bus? They can log into a system and see exactly where that vehicle's at, provide information without any type of follow-up. And then we would like to provide the benefit to the parents. So not only what can we do as a school district, how does this benefit the communities and families that we serve? And how do we want to do this is implement it by the end of next school year. Phase it in. Pretty aggressive timeline, but the technology's there, and we're doing a lot of the upfront work where we feel that by the end of next school year, we can phase this in over about 4 different timelines and get it done. Talking about safety benefits, like I said, it integrates with our existing software that we have secure information and secure data links with it. We want to provide our drivers with student information, photos, so that if there's a stop that has 5 students at it, they know exactly who those 5 students are, they can identify them. So if a 6th student shows up, they know exactly who that student is or who that student is not. We can reduce any type of new or substitute driver difficulty in learning a route and how to drive that route. Like I said, we route our students, and we do it based on industry best practices and safe practices and safe stop locations. So we want drivers to make sure that they adhere to the routing that we set in place, and this system is going to allow us to make sure that that's adhered to and provide follow-up and coaching if necessary. Talking about data security, because there is information that's going to be available. We have all of our data housed in district. We are not creating, like I said, multiple data points where we have to go to somebody else's server where that data is stored and pull it back in and worry about how data is stored and the sharing of the data. If anybody can read what that encryption of 266-bit encryption means, you deserve a prize. But that is how the data is encrypted on as we transfer data to drivers and first student. And that's the different combinations that somebody would have to know to able to access that data if they wanted to do something malicious. So basically, bottom line is that the data will be secure and safe. And also talking about access to that data for our families, we're following the same protocols that we have in place for access to Home Access Center with eSchool. We're providing the information as if there's a split household and one guardian doesn't have access to the student information, that same exact information be followed in the protocols within this VersaTrans system and give access given that way. So how does this benefit our families? There's an app that is an add-on to this system called MyStop. It could be accessed via a smartphone with just an app that you download from the smartphone store, whether it's Apple or Android. It's browser-based. You can also log in on any PC and access it from a computer. What the information that's provided is an ETA. It's real-time update. It tells you where the bus is at and how long it's going to take you to get there. And I have some screenshots here on the next slide that's going to show you some of the information that is available. It tells you, hey, you have a scheduled stop of 7:32 in the morning. ETA is your route scheduled to run on time. If it's hit some traffic jam, it gives a live ETA of, hey, it's running 5 minutes late, so that families understand that the bus is running late and they don't need to pick up the phone and call, where's my bus? They'll know where it's at. So we're looking to reduce some of those phone calls. And then if you have a student that has a family that has multiple students in the household, they'll be able to access it just from one login and click on a student's name to see that route information. And kind of going back to what I said, we're looking to make it easy to log in, utilizing potentially the Indian Prairie 204 app that's existing. We'll use that, punch out into the application or a website login, and use the exact same login, username, and password as you do for home access. So we're trying to make it easy for our families to get the information and not have to remember multiple usernames and passwords. So these are the screenshots that on the left side is a mobile phone, and on the right side is the website login. And at the bottom of those pages, it basically tells you the ETA and the information on the route. So one of the things that, you know, as I do things is I look to see, okay, we have something that we want to do, and then how do we pay for it? And the benefit here is we're able to justify it within our existing budgetary requirements and the transportation claim. So each year we submit a claim to ISB for some of our transportation expenses, and this fits within the requirements for our reimbursable claim amounts. And also we have some cost containment initiatives that we've been working on within the Transportation and Support Services Department to consolidate our routes, make our routing more efficient, and this data is going to make us a little bit more powerful in those efforts as well. So in the end, we're going to be able to provide this to the district and to our families at no cost. So it's a benefit all around. So that's all I have. Any questions that you guys have?
Anybody from this side?
It sounds like an Uber app. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. It's, you know, you can summon an Uber and know exactly where it's at, but let alone where we have the same technology, it's not on a bus. Well, we're looking to get it there.
Sounds so cool. I have no questions.
Are other districts using this already?
Yeah, so this software does exist in some other school districts. A lot of districts that are in-house, that do transportation in-house, utilize this system. One of the biggest one is Palatine District up in Palatine. They route about 12,000 students, 175 routes every day, and they use this system, and very positive feedback when I talk to them.
When the system goes down, because it will, can the bus drivers still pick up the kids?
Yes, so there's two pieces of that. Buses, it's the apocalypse, right? No. So there's two pieces of that. There's, again, we're looking to eliminate data points, and if anything was to fail, you would have two catastrophic events. Either our district servers would fail or the Verizon network would fail. So if one of those two things go down, yes, there is a way that we can still communicate with drivers. And they would still have their route sheets in a pouch on the side where then they would go back to paper. So there is some redundancy efforts in the back place, yes.
Ms. Price?
Yeah, kind of to Justin's point, like if there was an accident, you would get the information that this bus may be rerouted?
Yeah, so and that's the benefit of this. Let's just say there was an accident per se. You would have an ETA update. And what First Student would do is they would assign another bus and assign your stop to that bus. And then all that information is uploaded and updated on the back end. And then you would see the new bus lives information and when the bus will be there. Yes.
That was my second question I was going to ask, but the first one dealt with more of a, if there was a car accident,
Right.
and that bus had to be rerouted because of a detour, you would see that as well then?
You would see the ETA update on the app, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's all I had.
And then we would also be able to run reports that said, hey, this bus went off our designated route path. Why? If for some reason there was like a railroad crossing down and they rerouted without informing us. We as a district must approve any reroute before a driver's allowed to do it.
Okay, because I mean, I use an app that I can find, like, when, you know,
Like Life
members of my,
360.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, when they've arrived at work or when they've, are
Yep.
leaving work, especially in like snowstorms or things like that. So I can tell, you know, that usually takes them 10 minutes to get home.
Right.
Why is it taking them 20? Okay, because there's an accident. So will that,
It doesn't it's not specific to if there's an accident.
but I mean,
on-
will
yeah.
it tell you where they're at? Like,
Yes, it'll show the
along
bus.
that course of the route.
Not by student, but it'll tell
Right.
where the bus is at, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, if it's off route, it'll still show. If it's supposed to be on Deal and it had to take Eola for some reason.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Mr. Rising?
First of all, the kids are going to love you because they're going to go, I'm not going outside for 30 more seconds. It's too cold. The bus isn't going to be here yet.
Yep.
But my question is more along the side from the drivers. I mean, first of all, you said that they will have access, student information access. Is that through their app as well, something that they have? Because, you know, obviously you don't want students' information to get in the wrong hands, right?
Right.
But I'm just wondering how the drivers are accessing that student information.
So contractually, we have confidentiality clauses within the base for student contract. Second piece is they currently have that information available on paper. We're looking to provide a little bit more information. In the event of an accident, they know all student information. They have photos provided to them in real time. So the information's there. They have their own secure login that it times out on the device after a certain period of time of inactivity to maintain some of that data integrity and data confidentiality. So it's information they currently have. It's just in a better format, in a more technological format.
All right, cool.
Susan?
And just a quick question on, there was the audio-only setting that was mentioned. Is that something that there will be centrally controlled?
Yep.
Once they get in motion on audio only?
Yeah, so there's basically an admin dashboard that controls all the settings on the device. And if we decide, hey, we don't, as the vehicle's moving, we don't want you to have any visibility, it'll blank out the screen based on the GPS motion. And then you'll have the audio only of, hey, left turn on a certain Indian trail. Yeah.
And that video, that monitor would only be, would only concern the transportation, no other access to anything?
Correct. So this does not link to the video security system on the bus. This is just route information.
Okay.
We still have cameras and on the vehicle that's separate from this. Yeah. And we'll still have available access to that. Yeah.
Mr. Razek reminded me that we didn't really introduce you.
Oh, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ron Johnson, the Director of Support Services. Took over for Tim Keeley this year. And
He's doing a great job for us.
Yes, he is, and Mr. Razak wanted to make sure he's introduced for that one day that, that we don't get the phone calls, that Mr. Johnson gets the phone call.
That's
Full
630.
forward, right? Auto forward.
However, this is great.
Thank
Low
you.
cost,
No cost.
Yeah.
yeah, no cost, and improves, it's a convenience, improves that, makes life better for students and parents, and it's better for safety.
Get all the check boxes.
So it's a great report, so thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And then we'll be looking to present contracts here at our next board meeting that you'll see of what this all entails.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
And our last discussion item is our fine arts standards.
Ready?
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. We're here tonight to talk to you about fine arts. This is connected to Board Policy 640. However, this evening we're just providing you with some information on the updated standards, and there is no action required tonight or no decisions that will come at a later date. The work we're talking about this evening represents some of the state work, but it also represents some of our teacher leaders, as well as Grant Sauer and Brian Giovannetti, who I'm going to introduce now, who have worked to familiarize themselves with the new standards and the new curriculum, and tonight Brian's going to familiarize you. So with that being said, our Director of Elective Curriculum, Brian.
Good evening. Welcome for allowing me to come today. Just really, as Kathy said, kind of giving you an overview of our work so far and what we've been doing with fine arts and what does that look like. To give you a little bit of a background, the Illinois Fine Arts Standards went through an 18-month process and really aligned to the national art standards in regards to the fine arts disciplines, which we see here in District 204. In that 18-month cycle, it included collaboration with state representatives, community stakeholders, teachers, and other members of the community that may be involved with this. And then ultimately, they organized it by the anchor standard and grade level, which was adopted in June of 2016 by the state of Illinois. In that process, what you'll see a little bit different in the new standards is really a big focus on the process as opposed to the product. So if you think about music and art specifically, as opposed to the in-concert or the art product that an individual student would make, really looking at that process, and which really connects to a lot of things that we've been talking about with Future Ready 204, and really looking at problem solving, the collaboration, making personal connections, the personalized approach to teaching, as well as student choice, and then ultimately within the fine arts standards, making connection to works of art or what they're working on within that discipline. So what does this ultimately look like? Very similar to other standards. What you see gives the important things for what a student needs to know and be able to do within the fine arts disciplines, and really organizes that from a pre-K through 12 sequence, and really helps us organize our teaching and ultimately student learning. And then kind of really, these fine arts standards really gave a focus to the best practices used in the classroom. That's a lot of what the PD has been focused on through this process by the state, the county, as well as the district, and really in that instructional shift that the fine arts standards are approaching and discussing. One of the nice things that they've done is create 4 artistic processes. And over on the left, on that, the product-based standards, these were the original standards that were initially developed in 1985 and last updated in 1997. So we can see those 3 kind of big overarching ideas and the shift now to the process-based standards. So those 4 on the right, the creating, connecting, responding, and presenting, are the artistic processes that you'll see in all the fine arts disciplines, and it kind of give the overview of what that discipline is all about. The only difference is, instead of presenting it all in all of the fine arts disciplines, some of them will have performing. So music has performing, art has presenting. It really just kind of gives you an overview. So creating, really looking at the artistic ideas and work and that whole process from start to finish, not just the end. Connecting to themselves, the community, what the personal interest to them. Responding, and then ultimately presenting that work of art or that musical ensemble. This is a visual from the National Core Art Standards. The national standards for music and art were very similar to the Illinois with a few differences in wording, but for the most part the same between the national and the Illinois standards. I just took this graphic because it was a nice visual and gave you an organizational look at those artistic processes and how the standards flowed underneath them. So if you look at, for example, creating, underneath that is 3 different anchor standards, then drive the specific learning in relation to that. And then as you go along connecting, there's 2 anchor standards. To give you a little bit more of a specific look at this, this is a graphic. I know it's a little blurry. It was blown up from the Illinois standard website, but you'll see the artistic process creating on the top, and then right underneath it, anchor standard 1. So you would see that exact same thing for all 3 anchored standards that fall underneath creating. And what I really like that the National Illinois has done is really created some of those enduring understandings and ultimately essential questions to help us guide us in our curriculum work and what that looks like and the development of some big ideas. So that idea that they have pre-K through 12 is the same for all of those artistic processes and standards, and kind of gives a layout for what a student would learn throughout that process. So as I kind of mentioned, the enduring understandings help us lead to those big ideas, as opposed to looking at it by project to project to project, really making some big idea connections similar to what we've done in Common Core and ELA and math and similar mindset. And these are just a few examples of what it could look like in our discipline. Some were taken from ideas generated from my district and some were taken from national. But as you can see, creativity is a process, really looking at the start to the finish and then connecting some of the things that we do from an individual perspective and what they do in their classroom. This gives you a little bit more of a specific dynamic of the progression for a student from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade and some checkpoints along the way. So I chose Anchor Standard 3, which falls underneath the creating artistic process. As you can see there, the enduring understanding. And this component here is really looking at the revision process. Again, you kind of see the connection here, the process, reviewing, recycling, all those things that go along with it. And a great connection to what we've been talking about in everything that we do, the design thinking and really researching and engaging through that revision process. So in this specific anchor standard, you'll see in kindergarten, just the explanation of their art and what they're doing. Then as they get to 5th grade, creating artistic statements and then connecting it to their personal choices made in art, that student choice component of it all. Then as 8th grade, you'll see the revision part of that in the process and really making that a focal point. And then ultimately when they get to 12th grade, that extension, and then making some relevant connections to their personal artistic vision, what that looks like, and re-engaging during the entire process, and then coming back to it after they finish it. So you can see that sequence from kindergarten through 12th grade and what that looks like. And that is very similar in all the anchor standards and all the enduring understandings that flow underneath it. So where are we? What have we done? Last year, we really just took a deep dive into the Illinois standards. What does it all mean? What does it look like? How does instruction shift? What do we need to do? And then brainstorm some big ideas that are process focused, and really just started to have that conversation, what it all looks like in District 204. Throughout the state, they've been having similar conversations. I'd say we're a leader in that, as one of the things that we've been doing this year is attending some professional development by the Regional Office of Education and just kind of helping through that process. And our teachers have been really good at being leaders in that conversation, presenting at a number of different state conferences, as well as ROE professional development. The one that we last attended, our elementary school art teacher was a presenter talking about inquiry-based instruction in arts and what does that look like and how do we continue to develop that. Some other things that we've been working on, building assessments to help drive some good professional learning conversation on Wednesday mornings and afternoons, to use that data to help us talk about good instruction and what our kids learning. And then ultimately finishing up our K-12 sequence in visual arts and music and having that K-12 sequence and what it looks like. And then some things that we still need to finish is that whole K-12 sequence, finalize it, really connecting the standards to the inquiry-based and good instructional practices in our classrooms, making connections to other disciplines where appropriate, just like anything else that we do. And then A in STEAM, as you heard earlier, just the artistic connection. If you go to innovation hubs around the area in Chicago, you'll see artists just as you will engineers, so that artistic connection to it, as well as the connection in music, and then ultimately board approval of the K-12 curriculum. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Susan?
I don't. I love love what you're doing, and I love that process, seeing that connection to reality. Thank you for sharing.
2 quick questions.
Yeah.
First, a comment. I just find this funny how they're setting standards for the arts when the music side of the arts, we talk about 21st century skills. Music has been doing 21st century skills in the 4 Cs since about the 12th century. But that's another story. Have we gotten feedback from our department chairs, our music teachers, on what they're seeing of this process? That's my first question. And then my second question is, how is this an internal measure and assessment that we have to do, teachers to students? Because I don't see any way possible you can assess and measure on a standardized level art or music, because it's very subjective, and it's, every student and every class is different when you're talking about collaboration, critical thinking, and all those things around the arts. So got a lot of concerns about it, but, I'll just let you go to.
For sure. So the first thing, I apologize if I didn't do a great job of explaining this. These standards are similar to all the fine arts disciplines, which is art and music. So I wanted to make sure that clarify that. I just use art as an example to kind of walk you through what that looks like. And then ultimately, how does that look and what does that mean in our classrooms, the conversation behind it all? In a rubric-based format, there is a lot of individual teacher conversation and subjectivity to that. So one of the things that we've really been working on is developing good rubrics that is aligned to those standards, and then ultimately having teachers bring some examples of student work, and then having good conversations about that student work and what does that look like, how would you evaluate them, and what feedback would you give to the student.
Well, there's not going to all of a sudden be like a standardized test as it relates to the arts.
No, in fact, what we're hearing, when you see the ESSA indicators that are coming, there is a fine arts indicator, and what we're hearing most recently is that it's going to be centered around participation.
Okay.
So not around a product. And I will interject that department chairs, fine arts teachers have all been involved in the process. In fact, just at Institute on Friday, Brian and I were talking about what a great conversation some of our teachers had about inquiry-based and things like that. So they've been involved and been leading the charge in their disciplines of art and music for this process of unpacking the standards and working on the curriculum.
No, they answered all my questions.
Yeah, 3 points. We have a great fine arts program. I don't want Illinois messing that up.
Our teachers won't allow that.
Thank you. I also invite you to look at our board policy on repertoire selection. That's probably involved in the curriculum changes and part and parcel of the discussion that's going on. And then we have had some challenges with timing on instructional material and curriculum changes. Do you envision adoption of the new curriculum to involve the purchase of additional instructional material that would require board approval?
In regards to textbooks specifically?
I think instructional material might be a little bit broader than that.
Well, yeah.
At this time, we don't anticipate any shifts in terms of additional purchases regarding that, and it be beyond the replacement or repair of existing equipment, and what that looks like.
Thanks.
You were just missing board policy, and we didn't have to approve any, or, you know.
I always go back to it.
I know,
I can
you
throw
just
it in
missed
there.
it.
I've been satisfied.
Kathy?
I guess my only question, when you're talking about performance and creation-based, will you get questions about, are you going to teach the history of art and music and that? And that's, I assume it's incorporated, but can you speak to that?
Absolutely. That'll all be embedded within that instructional approach and connected to all the things that they're doing in the classroom. I think if you look at the visual arts and music staff specifically, that's one of the things that they're very proud of in embedding that. If you walk down any classroom, that's a part of their conversation. So absolutely, it won't be forgotten. It won't be necessarily the highlight in starting that, but they use those every day in their instructional approach.
You know, when you look at inquiry-based, and sometimes we used to teach with, here's the example, now go and do it. It may be, let's do it, and then compare it to our example.
Okay.
So, you know, it's similar to the shift we were seeing in science, where we used to do the vocabulary words, read all about, and then try to make the experiment fit what you just read. Now we've shifted to, let's experience it and figure out what we just saw. It's a similar shift in those things. So it will still be there because it's an important piece of it, but it may not happen at the time it happened before. Maybe a different sequence of activity.
So I like that it aligns with academic standards, that allows for integration of curriculum across the school day. So I think that's pretty cool. Tell me though, with the curriculum, I mean, or instructional delivery, has this affected instructional delivery where a music teacher, art teacher has been teaching a similar way, like the product-based standards way, and now they have to go process standards? So how do you help people make that shift from teaching a certain way, and now it's a little bit different, more based on process? I mean, how do we help our staff through this in order that it becomes systemic, sort of, like across all middle schools and elementary, that we're kind of hitting those things?
I think one of the best things that our district can be very proud of is we have a lot of teachers who are already doing these practices on a daily basis and sharing the great things that they do, and really being teacher leaders and really sharing across disciplines and what that looks like, and taking some things from other teachers and what they've done. So to kind of be more specific, those teacher leaders are really sharing some of the great things they're doing in their classroom. When we have PLC time, talking about good instruction and what are our students learning and how did that ultimately look in my classroom. And then when we have an opportunity, sending teachers to some professional development offered by the DuPage County, by the state, or anyone else, and then through our district as well.
Some of our fine arts teachers are our most future-ready teachers. We have some that have been dabbling and using, you know, technology, using other processes for a while. So, you know, we highlight those areas and they share information, and it's been pretty powerful.
So if I would go into a sixth grade art class across several different middle schools, they would look similar, sort of?
Similar, sort of, I'll give you. I think it's the same. You know, one of the things we ask teachers to do is to react to the students in front of them. So there's some differences in instructional delivery based on the students that they are teaching, as well as their level of risk-taking in those areas, as well as the kids' level of risk-taking. So I think it's similar. I think they have a lot of similarities in their delivery, certainly in what the big ideas are and those kinds of things, but how they have students process through that may be different. So.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm getting at, I don't want to mess up a teacher's style, but I do want to make sure that, and it wouldn't be me, the person going in, but when a principal goes in to evaluate, that they would say, oh yeah, they're really working on process-based standards. That's what I'm kind of looking for, that everybody gets that opportunity to work on that. So you say yes.
Go
ahead.
No, you were go ahead. Well, yeah, that is one of the focuses that we've been having, and just sharing and discussing what that looks like, and sharing the work with principals as well.
I think it's similar for all teachers right now, as everybody's making this shift in instruction from the product to the end result, get the answers right on a test, to learn the process of learning. So I think everyone, it's a nice time because everyone's in that same shift and working through it. So, you know, even though I teach art and you teach science, we can still talk about instruction because the shift is similar, even though the content may be different.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a few items for Board of Education update. I will be providing an update on our last LEND meeting and also the foundation at our next meeting, but tomorrow we'll be participating in the spring IASB meeting, so that's tomorrow night as a reminder. And also, we got a couple reminders in writing, but we're always not so compliant in terms of filling out our survey. So the survey needs to be in the next couple days, because we conduct a board evaluation in April, and each one of us in secret kind of fills out the survey. So I'm asking you to make sure that you have completed it. Lori, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think we got an email about this, but I think it's worth noting for our students and our community that March has been designated as Best Buddies Month. And for those of you who don't know what Best Buddies is, it's pairing up students with disabilities with a typical peer, and they develop certain friendships, and they can help them. It's kind of help them through their school, through their days, and participate in various activities with them, whether it's a dance or they might go to prom together. It's very inclusive. And as part of one of the Best Buddies initiatives is with the R word. We want to eliminate the R word, and Wednesday, March 7th has been designated as Spread the Word to End the Word Day. So there's a pledge that you can go online, and it's rword.org, I believe it is, and you can sign that pledge to not use that word. So I think it's a great opportunity for our students to reflect on some of their peers that they might be able to help or assist in certain ways. So I just encourage everybody to take some time to reach out to some of those peers as well.
Thank you. Susan, you want to give one final and passion plea to come to the last engagement?
We are very excited to invite the community to join us on March 20th for our final Engage 204 collaboration event. And as Superintendent Sullivan mentioned, we will be focusing on finances, so it is extremely important to all of us to understand where we see our investment going in the district and what we need to look at as we move into the future. So we invite you to please join us. again on March 20th, 7 p.m., still middle school. And it is a very collaborative process. If you have not had an opportunity to attend before, we are very excited that everyone really has a chance to have their input shared publicly as we come to an end. Thank you.
And yes, and I would like to add, you didn't have to go to all the other ones to come to this one. We had several new community members join us last time, and it made it for a very vibrant session. So, we encourage everybody, if you haven't come, there's one last chance. Please do come. We do need your input, so thank you, Susan. Anybody else? A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
It's my choice.